Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe. Share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, this may be a very long weekend wrap because I've got a lot of thoughts that I want to kind of get out there, but I might save some of them for Fight Talk Live, which will, well, by the time you watch this, it's either going to be in an hour or it would have been yesterday. It depends when I upload it. Now, I'm going to try and start off in a bit of chronological order, as I always do. But I haven't watched all of the action from the weekend. So I'm just going to give my general thoughts on what I did see. Now, if we start on Friday, there was the next gen card that took place at the Indigo 2 in Greenwich. It was headlined by George Lidard and Derek Osaze. And on the undercard, I didn't watch many of the fights, but I know Maisie Rose Courtney was on there. Lily Buttigieg, I think is how you pronounce his name. Who else? Lidard, not Lidard. George Lidard was on there. I can't remember. Giorgio Vizioli was on there. I was trying to remember the other, sort of the other guys. Jimmy Sains was on the card as well. So, but I only saw the last two fights because I was doing something at the time, and that was Janae Bostan versus Bilal Fawaz, and then obviously George Lidard and Derek Osaze. First things first, before I get into my thoughts here, on camera, I put it onto X, but I'm putting it on camera now, so anyone watching, feel free to forward it to Bilal Fawaz. I profusely apologize for the way I spoke about you and your record prior to the Janae Boston fight. I didn't know who you were. Again, I know some of the amateur stuff. I don't really follow everyone, especially from, sort of years gone by, a lot of the time. I heard all the spicy talk in the press conference, but I looked on the box rec, didn't see anything of note on there. Didn't even see any opponents that I recognized, and it just felt like it was gonna be a knockover job. That's what I looked at, and it was anything but. So Bilal, if you're watching, I'm sorry for the way I spoke about it and just dismissed you outright. I will be watching from now on, and I will be doing my Googles. That being said, that was a very, very interesting fight. Janae Boston, I feel like he got the better of the early rounds, just from obviously general movement, and Fawaz was kind of high guard to sort of walking him down. I think that the plan was just to make him work, sort of tire him out, and then hit him with hard shots towards the end of the fight, and sort of get him going from that rounds 5-6 onwards. Well, the plan was pretty much working to a T, to the point where I think it was in the 6th round, Janae Boston got hit with some very big looking punches and it had his eyes looked mad glazed, like he was partially concussed in the ring. But credit to him, he rolled out the storm. He also threw some of his own shit back, and Fawaz has got a very, very good chin. Like, he was never buckled by any of the big shots that he got caught with. He was always trade back and exchange back with Janae Bostan. It was just a really kind of fun, entertaining, edge of your seat fight, because you didn't know, oh, is this going to be another prospect that comes a cropper in the matchroom gym? Or, this guy's got a good chin, he's tough, he's durable. It's one of those type fights. But the one problem with Bilal Fawaz was, unfortunately, he just, even though he was doing a lot of showboating and taunting and talking to Janae Boston, he just wasn't doing enough work at times. And I think part of that is to do with he was getting tired, and he was using those taunts and stuff as a means to try and nick a couple of breaths, or to try to recharge the arms to go for another big shot, like about 20-30 seconds down the line. Because there were several times, if he had just kept that pressure on, you could imagine that Janae Bostan would have capitulated. But overall, right at the end of it, obviously I didn't tweet this. I wasn't scoring the fight live onto X like I usually do, because I expected it to be a foregone conclusion, and by the time I realized that it wasn't, it was too late. But I was kind of keeping a rough mental score in my head of how I was seeing the fight. And as soon as the fight was over, I was like, they can't give it to Boston, but I just got a feeling they it's too blatant to not give it to Fawaz either. So I just thought, okay, watch, our better draw's about to come here. And then lo and behold, we got a 97-93 to Fawaz, a 96-94 to Boston, and then a 95-95 even draw. Now, I'm not hugely mad at the draw, but I do think Fawaz overall did enough to win. But on the other hand, I can see there's a couple of times again where Faraz just wasn't working hard enough and he was allowing Boston to kind of get off those extra couple of shots, those extra eye-catching shots in rounds, which could have probably nicked him a few rounds. So 96-94 either way, I could see. The 97-93 for Waz was surprising to me, but I can also see where you kind of got there. The draw was what it was, and then Janae Boston very weirdly at the end of it started talking about, oh, come on, Eddie, give me the rematch. But I want, like, but if I can have this, I fought in your hometown or in front of your home people, so let me have the rematch in front of mine, and I guarantee you I'll beat you. Now that, to me, I didn't like that talk, because that made it seem as if you, number one, need the comforts of home to win, but number two, you need home advantage to win, i.e. you need the crowd on your side, you need the judges on your side, you need to be the A side in your hometown, so that that you might possibly be looking for a gift decision. That's kind of how it came across, which I didn't like. And then Eddie Hearn pretty much stamped his authority straight away and said, no, this rematch is going to happen next. It's going to happen wherever I choose. And Boston's trying to argue. He goes, no, like, there's no other fight for you. Like, this is next. And I'll admit, I did like that from Eddie. Is like, sometimes you get these gift decisions or these fights where, oh, maybe the home fighter got away with one, or and then he's like, okay, well, you just run off and do your own thing. Because more time than not, Frank Warren wouldn't be telling you, no, you're going to have that rematch immediately. Like, normally they'll take you in another direction, and maybe you see that a year or 2 years down the line when you got more experience. Well, Eddie's like, nope, running it back straight away. So I respect it. And you could tell, I think that whole demanding the homecoming fight thing was it looked like it kind of rubbed Eddie up the wrong way, like, no diddy. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, we will see that in probably after Ramadan, so maybe in May or June time. So yeah, interesting. But it was an entertaining fight, and again, Bilal, apologies. I'll do my research in future before just dismissing people, or at least I'll try to if I care enough about the fight. That being said, main event, this one was one of the ones that I called spot on, just from the fact that I said that Osazi, in terms of technical abilities, I felt that he was a better, more complete fighter overall than George Lidard, but he would basically do things where he would put himself in danger to get caught, and probably get the fight taken away from him. Now, I said the fight would play out in the sense that whoever kind of has the better success early, if Lidard can actually hit and hurt Osazi from early on, then he can keep him in that mode for the rest of the fight, and either get a very, very late stoppage or win a unanimous decision. But if Sazi would like box, keep Lidard, at bay, maybe even stun him, but just like basically box, move, and make him have to work, then he would have a lot more success in the fight and possibly sort of get it. But I picked Lidard to win a unanimous decision purely because I just knew Osazi would do certain things and make certain choices that wouldn't benefit him in the moment. Now, he chose to stay in the pocket for almost the entire fight, which was brave on his side, and obviously he managed to survive all 10 rounds, which was it was a 12 rounder. I think it was a 12 rounder. So he managed to survive all of the rounds, which was a credit to him in that sense. But he was fighting the fight, especially early, like he was a puncher. He's got 3 KOs on his record from, I think, like 16 or 17 fights at the time. Like, you're not a puncher. Like, box, do the right things, win, and if anything, break him down. Then you can start to try to throw a bit more mustard into the shots. But it was an interesting fight, and it was an okay main event. Like I said, I didn't really see much of the undercard past those two fights, but it looked like the Indigo 2 was on and popping a bit. So congratulations. And I know at the end of the fight, there was a bunch of boos for when Lidard got given the unanimous decision. I will assume that there are Sazi fans, and I think Lidard made mention of that himself. But look, at the end of the day, it was a good learning fight. He will progress on. Asazi can still come again. Maybe just make a few smarter choices, especially depending on who you're fighting, and he might get, he might get the rub of the green. Now, Saturday came. I didn't see any of the boxer card apart from the last two fights. The Ahorga fight, which was with Callum Simpson, and the main event. I saw that Scott Forrest got stopped on his feet, and it was being seen as a very premature stoppage. Haven't seen the entire thing, but I saw the the highlight clips. Looked a bit, a little bit premature, but it is what it is. I saw TKV and Michael Forrest, Jamie TKV, Michael Forrest. That fight was horrible to watch. I think I was in the gym when that fight was going on, and I was walking home watching it, or I just got home or something. Yeah, look, TKV's he's got to stop falling in. He's got to stop the whole clinching. I know he's got the wrestling background, so maybe he's just comfortable being on the inside, but he's got to make the work cleaner, because right now he's not attractive to watch. And the less attractive he is to watch, the worse it's going to be to sort of get him on these cards, which means you're going to have to either match him incredibly tough where he can get beat legitimately, or he's just not going to get the opportunities because they're realizing there's a lot of people complaining about his fights. And this is coming from someone that actually, really rates, respects, and got a lot of time for Jamie. So if he is watching this, or anyone who knows him is watching this, like, that's what he's got to start working on now. He's got to start working on keeping separation, staying out of the clinch, staying, just making the fights a little bit more entertaining, because that was a horrid fight to watch. And you don't get many more of them before you start getting taken off the TV portions and probably going onto the small hall shows. So yeah, look, that's kind of that. In terms of Callum Simpson and Ahorga, it was Elvis Ahorga, I think his name was. That was an interesting fight. Now, I remember I gave criticism of Callum Simpson's fight about 3 weeks ago with Steve Woodall, where I felt he was boxing like hurriedly, and he was making fundamental errors, lunging into his jab and all sorts of things. This fight, I was really impressed with how he was fighting, especially in the first couple of rounds. Like, the jab was great, the footwork, the stance when he was actually letting go of the jab, and the backhand, always staying in the right position, good footwork. He was being aggressive, but he wasn't just rushing everything. He was being very measured, and he was just peppering Ahorga from round 1 to round 4. But it was competitive, where Ahorga would dip underneath and try some looping left hooks. A lot of them were very telegraphed. So Callum Simpson, he found the range, he found obviously the level, kept the, what was it? Normally it was right hand. He kept his right hand up quite consistently. Didn't really get hit with anything. There's a couple shots here or there. There was a shot I think he got caught with in the third round, the middle to end of it. I think it was in the third, where I won't say he wobbled, but he definitely felt it, and it definitely looked as if it caused him some uncomfort. And then Ahorga tried to sort of, he tried to press the gas a little bit, but Callum Simpson eventually, he recovered quite well, and then sort of got back to what he was doing. Ultimately took Ahorga down in the fourth round. I think it was a couple of accumulation shots. I think it was ended by a left. I think it was a left hook as Ahorga was leaping in, or it was a right sort of to the jaw, which sort of sent him down to the trajectory. He was on the ground, he was looking at his corner, and obviously the referee's counting. Now, I don't know if the corner knew the rules over here. Obviously, you have to be on your feet by 8 so that you're ready to go, technically by 10. So even if you get to your feet 9 before the 10 is reached, the referee will still wave it off a lot of the time. And we had Howard Foster in the ring, so there was no way that Ahorga was going to get extra consideration and was going to be allowed to continue that fight. Now, there is some people may say that he intentionally missed the count to make it look like he really wanted to carry on, but he didn't. I think it was misjudged by the team because there was an angle where you see him looking at the corner and you can see the corner. Some of them is like chill, and then then they're like up, 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 and then that's when he was kind of getting up. So he was taking advice from them. And again, they maybe didn't know the rules of the BBBOC in how they sort of do the knockdown thing. So I'll give him benefit of the doubt with that. But one thing, I've said it numerous times, I can't stand Howard Foster. And in this particular instance, it's not even because I think he waved it off prematurely. He was within his rights to kind of do that, but he was looking from the first second of the first round for any excuse to wave this fight off. If you watch the fight all the way through, you will see Howard Foster constantly just looking at Elvis Ahorga. There's no time that he ever takes his eyes off of him to look at Callum Simpson to make sure that he's okay, except for when they're in the clinches and he's going in to break them and separate them. He's constantly looking at Ahorga like, okay, I'm ready, like anything I can see, and I will jump in here. And that was, to me, showing the blatant bias of him in this fight. Like, he was just ready and willing and just looking for any excuse to stop the fight. And lo and behold, I mentioned it in the chat on October Red's live stream. Shout out to her. And then I put it on TwitterX. As soon as I put it on TwitterX, Elvis goes down. He starts the count, and then Elvis gets up before the 10 count, but he waves it off. Again, I don't have an issue with the wave off because technicalities of the rules and how it's been explained to me, you've got to be up by 8, and the team maybe didn't know that. So I give him the benefit of the doubt there, but I just don't like his actions in this fight. He was constantly just waiting for a reason to stop the fight, as he always does. And he's one of the worst referees in the country, and I really just need him to get demoted from an A class down to a B level. He needs to start doing misfits shows and that, because he doesn't belong on the major circuit at this point. That's my thoughts and feelings on that. Anyway, main event time. Adam Azim versus Sergey Lipinets. Now, I was impressed a little bit by Azim's boxing. Like, he actually boxed a very good fight. Didn't really get hit with anything. I never expected him to. The one thing I was a bit disappointed in is I predicted that he'd get this fight done inside 6-7 rounds, and it took him 9. Now, yeah, I knew that, I felt coming down in weight, Lipinets would have a lot more, a lot more wear and tear and a lot less resistance, after being up at 147 for the amount of fights that he was and then coming back. Azim, he was throwing heavy shots, throwing heavy punches, but there was just it didn't really seem like he had the power that we believed that he had. And it seems ever since that fight with the, I think it was it the Argentinian or was he Venezuelan? The one, I remember the fight took place at the OVO back in 2023, I think it was. And I remember from that fight there, his power doesn't seem to be what it was beforehand. Now, maybe that's because he's growing, and obviously body's growing, it's getting a bit harder to make the weight, or maybe, that was the consequence of him fighting that level of opposition. A lot of guys also coming up from lower weight classes, now fighting people within that 140, it's just not looking the same. That being said, the movement's good, the reflexes are good. I still don't know about the chin really, because he didn't really get tested by Lipinets. I just thought he would get rid of him a lot quicker. But to be fair, he did bust him up, and it was a very good performance. So I've got no issues with that. The only issue I do have is him talking about Dalton Smith after the fight. Oh, I hope you're watching, because this is how you deal with a fight, or whatnot. This is what a fight's supposed to be. Bear in mind, you could have fought the guy, and you decided to give up your belt. You decided to forego the opportunity to face for the British title, to now talk shit from technically behind the fence. And then when it's so is that a fight that we can look forward to now? Oh, well, it's still marinating. Well, why is it marinating? If you're talking about the brother, like when he talks about you, it's because he says, I want to fight him now. If he's ready to fight, I'll fight him now. And you're talking about, check out my fight. You wish you could do that, but don't worry, we can maybe fight somewhere down the line though. It's like, I just thought that was, that was some sucker shit. If I'm gonna be real, that's my opinion on that. Like, unless you're ready to go now, like, keep his name out your mouth. Especially when you weren't even asked about him. You just brought it up for no reason. Especially when we know that your next fight, quote unquote, from what I've heard, is gonna be, a light touch because it's gonna be, a month or 6 weeks after Ramadan or something. So yeah, but look, that overall there was a good performance. I thought marred by just a little bit of naivety right at the end in the post fight press conference. But I still do look for big things for him. But there's still just more I need to see. There's boxes that I need to see ticked off just to understand and know exactly where he's at in terms of his rankings in that very stacked 140 division. Anyway, look, moving over to the big PBC card. Now, I've not seen much of the fights. Don't get me wrong, I was watching, but as you guys who would have seen, I was doing a live watch along and I was watching both the PBC card and I was also watching the Royal Rumble. And the Royal Rumble was a lot more entertaining, especially for, what I was doing in the interim. So I saw the Ramos and Rosario fight. I knew that Ramos will win that. I'll put that down on my predictions on my prediction sheet. Then we had Cuello versus Olivo. I did pick Cuello to win. I think I picked him to win via points decision or late stoppage. I can't remember. I'd have to check my sheet, but obviously that from what I was seeing, it looked like it was fun, but I actually missed all the best parts of it because it was on the same time as the women's Royal Rumble was on, and I was having way too much fun watching that. So I need to go back and check that fight fully, as I've heard it was a really, really good fight. There was another fight that came on after that, which I don't remember much about because again I was watching the wrestling. Then there was one other fight. Then there was Isaac Cruz and Angel Fierro. Now I was watching that alongside watching the men's Royal Rumble, and from what I was seeing, it was looking fun. But again, my attention wasn't really onto it properly. I heard some people say Fierro, they believe Fierro won, but they were expecting that Cruz would get it because he's like the A side and he's probably the next opponent for Tank Davis in a rematch if he gets past Lamont Roach. So can't really give too much of a thing, but from what I did see, it looked very action packed, especially the last few rounds. Then we got Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton. Now I got this one wrong. This was one of the ones I got horribly wrong. Realistically, I picked Brandon Figueroa to win via attrition and a late stoppage, him looking a bit better at 126 than he did at 122. But Fulton showed up and showed out, and basically he made the clear gap in skills between the two, separation very, very clear. And I don't know if it was Fulton was much better than I thought he was, or than I'd seen from him, or that I was expecting him to be, or if Brandon Figueroa was that bad, or if it was a combination of the two. But lo and behold, I was barely watching this fight because it was awful to watch. I even said on the stream I was apologizing to people why I'm not even speaking, because I'm just trying to watch this thing looking for some kind of action. Brandon Figueroa, messy on the inside, getting caught with shots coming in, no defense. He's not even doing good work on the inside. Then you got Fulton, who's actually doing decent work, but can't peel the skin off a grape. It did no power, no nothing. It was just horrible to watch. The best thing about the fight was Stephen Fulton's fight gear, with the denim looking shorts with the phrase at the bottom and the Tim boxing boots. Like, that was the best part of the entire fight. It was really, really awful to watch. Maybe I'm overreacting and someone will put in the chat now it wasn't that bad, but to me it was horrendous. So the less said about that, the better. Moving on to the main event, David Benavidez versus David Morrell. Now, if you guys remember, in the video, predictions video, I said if this fight goes to cards, then David Benavidez is going to win it clearly on the cards. It will be a unanimous decision. There won't be any sort of arguments about that, because chances are he's going to outwork Morrell. So Morrell knows he can't let it go to cards, and I didn't think he would. So I said I was picking Morrell to win by around 10 or 11 stoppage. I got that wrong. Yes, I got it wrong quite clearly. David Benavidez won the fight very, very clearly. My scorecard, even though I wrote it down wrong on Twitter, but I had it 115, 111, the same as two of the judges had it. There was one judge that had it basically 11 rounds to 1, which I horribly disagreed with. And a few things, like I've seen people say that, and shout out, actually, let me not just say people. I've seen a lot of people, but let me be specific to some people I've actually had dialogue with, people that I respect and have good conversations with. So Joe Abib, shout out to Joe if you watch this. Maestro as well, shout out to you. I know we'll probably have a little talk about this on Fight Talk. I've heard them use the word dominating performance by David Benavidez. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here in my assessment of the word dominating or domination, because to me that was not a dominating victory by David Morrell. It was a very clear victory. It was a unanimous victory. Like there was no room for error in who won the fight. I could say that. But in terms of dominating, my thought when I hear the word dominating is Crawford versus Spence, Inoue versus Fulton, like Usyk versus Joshua in the first fight, Usyk versus Daniel Dubois. That's what I consider dominating. Daniel Dubois against Anthony Joshua. That to me is what domination looks like, where that you're making the other person bend to your will pretty much the entire time in the fight. They may be reduced to a slight moment here or there. You're pushing them around the ring. They're just hanging on for dear life. Benavidez and Andrade, that was a dominating fight. Benavidez, David Lemieux. That's to me is what I think of when I hear the word domination. So I didn't see that. What I saw was a very hard fought fight, tooth and nail type fight, very, very competitive in almost every round, where David Benavidez just did enough in the majority of them to win the rounds, because David Morrell wasn't doing enough. And it was very frustrating to watch, especially after the sixth, because in the first 6 rounds, I had it 3 rounds apiece. David Morrell was landing the harder shots and was landing the more impactful shots. And every time that he threw a shot, Benavidez visibly either reacted to it or tried to get out of the way or tried to evade the next one that was coming. Whereas Morrell was more content to sort of stay and stick in range and take the shots of David Benavidez. But by doing that, he was giving up ground on the scorecards because David Benavidez was being a lot more active. And it looked to the point from about round 6 onwards where, Benavidez was obviously, he had been employing some good work to the body. He'd been throwing some good shots. Morrell had been moving a little bit, and it looked as if, okay, he was starting to tire down a little bit. So now I'm going to hunker down and I'm just going to try and look for the counter, and I'm just going to try and look for one big shot. And it looked very much like Jean Gelé versus Joseph Parker, especially sort of in those later rounds where Jean is just looking for big shots to try and end the fight, whereas Joseph Parker is just working and working and working, which would have been the reverse of Joseph Parker and Joe Joyce. Joseph Parker was just looking for one big shot, because he was getting tired, whereas Joe Joyce is just constantly working, breaking him down, breaking him down. That's how the fight was playing out. And obviously, by the time it was in that 10th round, I had it 7-3 to David Benavidez quite comfortably. And I was saying with Monroe at this point, he needs the knockout, or he needs something to change in his favor. Now, round 11, and the thing is, when I say this, a lot of the rounds, Morrell had very good parts of the rounds. He was actually landing the more impactful, cleaner work, but it just was little and infrequent. Or he might do really good, like in the first minute, have that 30 seconds of real good work in the first minute, then just coast for like 2 minutes and then try to come back maybe in the last 10 to 15 seconds. But by that time, he's been peppered with a really, really good jab by Benavidez. Benavidez's jab was really good in this fight. I got to give him his props on that. He fell into it a few times, but just the way he was snapping it out, it was always catching, it was always reaching the target. Unsettling Morrell and allowing him to then work off of that and to get himself closer into range when he was trying to push Morrell back to the rope. So I got to give him big props for that. But yeah, he just started taking over just with the little extra work. But you could see that the engine was slowing down for Benavidez. Obviously, it was slowing down for both guys. But then at one point, you've got Morrell. He's literally hurt Benavidez a couple of times. He's got Benavidez on the ropes. He's going for headshots, but Benavidez is literally, he's hunkering back to try and block the shots up here, is leaving a whole load of midsection to go after target and really dive and drive into. And Morrell's just, he's not throwing shots, or he's backing off and letting Benavidez get back into it. Now, clearly, some of that must have been down to conditioning and being tired and trying to need a breather. But just that lack of urgency, that lack of like, he's got killer instinct when he sees someone who's all wobbled and woozy. And there was a couple of times Benavidez was, but he just didn't step on the gas. It was almost like he was either feeling, all right, safety first, or I can't afford to blow a gas tank. I can't afford to use up all the reserves. I've got to hold something. But by doing that, he was blocking his own blessings, especially in those later rounds. But when round 11 came, even though I questioned the knockdown. Look, there was a little tangle in the legs. There was, I guess, a couple of shots that landed before then. There was like a partially grazing right hook, which looked like it basically went over the shoulder more than anything. So I don't really know. I didn't think it was a knockdown on first view, but it got called. But I've had Morrell actually winning that fight. He was consistently doing good work in that 11th round. And then right at the end of the round, funnily enough, he then gets... He gets his work undone by getting a point taken off for hitting after the bell. Now, I thought that was harsh and I thought that was unfair, especially because Benavidez actually punched after the bell first and Morrell just reacted to it. So it's like, well, either take a point off of both of them or just warn both of them in the center of the ring, or, don't take a point. But the referee chose to, so it went from like a 10-8 on my card to like a 9-8. And then I started doing a madness when it came to my scorecard, and I'd forgotten the way that I was doing it initially. So then when it came time to then do my my actual scorecard at the end, I made a miscalculation by 1 point. But yeah, round 12, again, Morrell was actually doing really good work in the 12th round. He was getting to Benavidez. Benavidez looked hurt, he looked weary, he looked tired, he looked like he was there for the taking, but Morrell just didn't step on the gas, to the point where then Benavidez actually came back and won the round off of activity. No real hard shots went in, but he was just working. He was just doing more. He was being active. He showed that he just wanted to fight more, ultimately. And as much as I felt like, he was just gassed out from probably about round 8 onwards. Even a little bit before that, he was looking flaggy, but it looked like maybe he thought, okay, I can kind of wear this guy down and get him out of here. It just didn't work out that way. So it ended up being a unanimous decision on the cards. Like I said, I agreed with 2 of the judges, 115, 111. I would like to see their scorecard just to see what rounds that they gave to Morrell, to see if they were the same ones that I gave him. Because I believe there was several swing rounds in there, and every round that I thought was a swing round, I actually swung them all to David Benavidez. I don't normally judge fights that way, but I looked at this one and thought specifically Morrell and Benavidez. Benavidez is definitely going to be the more aggressive and the busier guy, and he's the clear A side in this equation. He is Mr. PBC. He's their last vestige of hope right now, so anything that's remotely close, he's going to get. And that's how I was looking at it. So it was Morrell's big punching and looking basically for that one big hitter quitter every round versus Benavidez's work rate. And that's ultimately what got David Benavidez the fight. Now, does that make me respect Benavidez more? Not particularly. I'm not going to go into my overall thoughts. I think I might save that for a live video. But what I do want to say is I don't know if this conclusively means that he's like the top 3 light heavyweight, like the number 3 or anywhere in that, because you know, you've got Joshua Buatsi, who's still undefeated, who's actually fought a lot more top quality guys at the weight, or at least a lot more recognizable. I guess we have to see how the Callum Smith fight plays out. Maybe the two of them need to fight to determine the full right to whoever takes on Benavidez and Bivol. But I know Turkey is quite keen for Benavidez to have that fight, so you know it's cool. He went up a little bit. Actually, to be fair, he kind of stayed plateau and how I sort of viewed him. Morel, funny enough, he went up in my estimation in one sense, but then he dropped in a couple others. So he's kind of gone down in my ratings, and Davis kind of stayed where he was. Maybe a slight bump up for one or two things, but then there's also other things for him which I was very, very disappointed in. Especially based off of people saying this was a dominating performance. Like, I know the face doesn't mean everything, but I looked at his face afterwards. It didn't look like the face of someone that was dominant. The fight itself, the way it was ended, didn't look like the fight that was dominant, with one guy just, you know, dominating the other. It looked like it was a tooth and there, it was a back and forth, and it was just a hard fought fight for both guys. That's what it looked like to me. So look, I know, and I'm also doing this early, so this is without Clarissa Shields and Danielle Perkins. I mean, you guys already know how I kind of feel about that one. I didn't really think it was worth waiting for that. So I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, I've got more thoughts. I probably will put them out Tuesday. We'll do a live. I'll go through everything. I'll talk with people. I'll bring people on, and we'll kind of get it cracking. But with that being said, I know this video is way too long, so I apologize. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll catch you on the next one. But until then, peace.